Now this question is like a mini database question. I think it is related to a bit of chemical bonding as well as periodic table or even atomic structure. So over here in this question, they tell you that you can represent a molecule using different forms. You can either use a dot and cross diagram, which is something that we are familiar with, or a ball and stick model. And then they go on to give you two tables in the question. Remember, in database questions or in pseudo or mini database questions, whenever data is given in tables, make sure to use them in your answer. So what do I mean by that? For example, in part A, they ask you why neither the dot and cross diagram nor the ball and stick model is an accurate representation of ethanol. Okay, so given the data in the table, we need to make use of them. So we need to first look at what data is given in the table. So firstly, you are given bond length between your carbon hydrogen bond, your carbon bond, and so on. So we know that we need to make a reference to bond length as to why the dot and cross diagram and the ball and stick model, they are not accurate. So firstly, if we look at the dot and cross diagram, there is no indication of bond length. Okay, no indication of bond length, so it's not accurate. If you look at the ball and stick model, all the bond lengths are the same. Okay, so this is inaccurate because if we look at the table, the bond lengths, or if we can just pick one, that the bond length of carbon hydrogen bond is different from that of carbon carbon bond. But in the ball and stick model, the carbon hydrogen bonds and the carbon carbon bonds are shown to be of the same length. Next, we look at table 9.2. What are we given? We are given the atomic radius, meaning the size of the atom. So we need to make reference to this in the question. So if we look at the dot and cross diagram, it seems to be okay because there seems to be a reference to the size as shown in the size of the circles in the dot and cross diagram. So we don't have to mention that. But if we look at the ball and stick model, the size of the atoms are all represented to have the same atomic radius. So again, make reference to the table. You can say that from the table, we can see that hydrogen atom is very much smaller than carbon or an oxygen atoms. However, in the ball and stick model, the hydrogen atoms are drawn to be of the same size as your carbon atom. All right, so moral of story is this: whenever data is given in a question for O levels, you need to make direct references to the data in your answer.